Kylian Mbappé dominated Andre Lunin during a Real Madrid training session. Victor Osimhen's new team. Is Rodri really leaving Manchester City? Barcelona is finally buying Nico Williams. Welcome to the new era of the Catalans. Tottenham has bought a replacement for Harry Kane. Barcelona has found a second wind and is once again eager to sign Nico Williams, who seemed set to stay at Athletic for another season. Joan Laporta has launched a massive campaign to promote the Spanish winger as Barcelona's new player. He simply cannot afford to lose face in front of the fans again and is willing to do whatever it takes to complete the transfer of Lamine Yamal's best friend. During the European Championship, this duo tore through opponents' defenses, and Laporta believes they will be the key to future victories for the Catalans. The need for a defensive midfielder transfer remains tactically ignored by the club's sports department. Catalan media report that Barcelona's president has personally taken charge of the Williams transfer, sidelining sporting director Deco, who has long proven his incompetence. Laporta will personally oversee the winger's move to the club. If this is indeed the case, then I have bad news for Athletic Bilbao fans. Despite all his pomp and populism, Laporta knows how to persuade, and these two qualities help him win people over. Surprisingly, Barcelona might be able to afford the transfer financially. The club recently sold part of its rights to Barca Studios and is close to restoring operations under the 1-to-1 rule. While I was writing the script for today's episode, it was revealed that the Spanish winger has agreed to the move to Barcelona. The deal is expected to be completed by the beginning of next week. This highlights the difference between a professional like Joan Laporta and an amateur like Deco. Barcelona's president managed to convince the player to join the Catalan club in just one day, while the sporting director knocked on doors for 2 months, but no one answered. Napoli has made a statement regarding Victor Osimhen's transfer to a new club. Victor Osimhen has asked to leave the club. He wants to go. The situation is clear. There were already chances of his departure last summer. Victor wants to leave. Let's see what happens in the next 20 days. Well, so to speak, the countdown has begun. He definitely won't stay in Napoli. It seems Victor is tired of waiting for someone to pay his release clause. As you can see, there are no takers. If the club is making such statements, then the pressure has already started from Osimhen and his entourage. Accordingly, there is room for negotiation and, as a result, the possibility of a discount. Insider Nicolo Schira already knows which club the striker will join, or so he claims. If we believe the journalist, Osimhen will soon become a PSG player. Allegedly, there is a preliminary agreement between the parties. The only problem was the price, which can now be negotiated down. Schira also reports that Osimhen turned down a crazy offer from Saudi Arabia, which greatly upset De Laurentiis. After all, the sheikhs were ready to pay the full amount stated in his contract. But they couldn't reach an agreement with the player. By the way, we don't rule out that this is precisely why the pressure on Napoli has started from the player himself. Victor and his agent realized that the club is only looking out for its own interests, and they began to act in their own. Overall, PSG is probably the most reliable option for Victor. First, he has already played in this league. For those who don't know, he moved to Napoli from Lille. Second, the Parisians will surely offer him the biggest contract. No one is likely to offer more. And third, the lack of competition in this team will allow him to play at full strength and score many goals, which can't be said about a team from the English Premier League. There, Osimhen might not play as well as people are saying now, although that's just speculation. Sooner or later, in our opinion, PSG should eventually win the Champions League. And who knows, maybe the team will do it under the leadership of Victor Osimhen. Meanwhile, to make sure you don't miss anything, subscribe to our channel and click the bell right now. Then you won't miss a thing. And while you're doing all that, we'll keep going. Guardiola punished a Manchester City player for a missed opportunity in the FA Community Shield. On Saturday evening, the Manchester Derby took place to decide who would lift the Community Shield. The Catalan coach once again didn't take the Super Cup seriously and fielded a semi-reserve squad, which faced a strong starting lineup from Manchester United. The first half was dull. If it weren't for the Red Devils' defensive errors, we wouldn't have seen any chances at all. The second half was more lively and more goal-oriented. However, it took until the 80th minute for any goals to happen. It seemed that Alejandro Garnacho's goal would once again punish Guardiola for his lax attitude toward the single-match tournament. But the Red Devils' defense managed to concede a header from Bernardo Silva inside the penalty area in the dying moments of the game. This tied the score, sending the match to a penalty shootout. First up was the savior of the citizens, but he once again failed to convert a penalty kick. Why once again? Do you remember how casually Bernardo Silva took his penalty in the shootout against Real Madrid? The Portuguese player missed from the spot again in a crucial moment. Bernardo's inaccuracy didn't stop the citizens from winning the trophy, but he won't be taking penalties anymore. Pep Guardiola has forbidden him from taking any more spot kicks. Pep has already told me that I won't be taking the next one, so you guys don't have to worry about that, Bernardo said after the game. That's how Guardiola punished his player for missed opportunities. It's probably for the best. Sometimes too much depends on whether a player can take advantage of their chances in a post-match lottery. Guardiola shared which position his Manchester City plans to strengthen before this summer's transfer window closes. We might need a defensive midfielder who can play as a central defender and in Rodri's position. Let's see what happens at the end of the transfer market, Daily Mail quotes Guardiola as saying. It's unlikely that this was a hint that Rodri might leave the club, although who knows what will happen after Guardiola himself leaves. After all, he is, so to speak, a key figure in the team. By the way, there have been reports in the press that Real Madrid is interested in Rodri, though who isn't interested in such a player right now? And yes, it was Guardiola who influenced Ederson's decision to stay with the team, despite receiving an excellent offer from Al Ittihad. Does any other coach have such influence over their players? We can't think of any offhand. The decision is made. I'm staying at Manchester City for this season. I spoke with Pep and that was important. I'm happy to stay and fully focused on winning as many titles as possible here. I also talked to the board, my teammates, and decided to stay. Journalist Fabrizio Romano quotes Ederson as saying, by the way, let's throw some suggestions in the comments for a defensive midfielder who would fit well into this team and why you chose that player. It will be very interesting to read your opinion and, of course, discuss it. While you share your thoughts, we move on to the next news block. Don't go anywhere. Kylian Mbappé continues to adapt to his new team. So far, everything is going as well as possible. He was immediately welcomed in the Real Madrid locker room, and his teammates have already appreciated his skill. During the Royal Club's training sessions, the Frenchman has been standing out in the best possible way. In the latest session, the newcomer to the Whites managed to frustrate André Lunin several times during a scrimmage and warmly celebrated the goals with Vinicius Jr. Carlo Ancelotti, meanwhile, showered the striker with compliments at a press conference. First of all, he brings quality as well as calmness, attitude, and dedication. He will have to adapt to this team just like everyone else. We are very happy that he is here because he has excellent qualities, and I am confident he will adapt quickly given his character, said the Real Madrid coach. However, despite all the qualities of the French striker, he may start his debut match on the bench. Carlo Ancelotti does not want to use Kylian from the first minutes in the UEFA Super Cup match. He plans to field a lineup close to the one that played in the Champions League. However, other sources note that the Italian coach has not yet made a final decision. He will choose the starting 11 players right before the game. And yet, could Mbappé be there? In that case, the media are considering two scenarios. Rodrigo could remain on the bench, with the Frenchman taking his place. Or Kylian could replace Modric, which would require Ancelotti to change the formation. Overall, such news only confirms the thesis that with Mbappé's arrival, the Real Madrid coach will have more headaches when choosing the starting lineup. In football, only 11 players can be on the field at once, and ideally, some of them should be focused on defensive work. The transfer window is still open, and I don't rule out that Madrid may have to put one of their attacking players up for sale. The latest insights suggest that the casualty of Mbappé's transfer could be none other than Rodrigo, whom Pep Guardiola would gladly welcome into his squad.